Welcome to Bart's Gaming Corner. It was the release of Cyberpunk 2077 that made me buy a new gaming rig last year. This was one of the major RPG titles I was very much looking forward to. Having played The Witcher 2 and The Witcher 3, I was convinced CD Projekt Red would offer the same high quality in this dystopian new RPG. Now, while I had my fun playing this game, I didn't have the same frustrating experience as console gamers had. Especially owners of the PS4, it still didn't blow me away. Of course, there were some problems for PC gamers as well. The game would crash every now and then, or during a fight, enemy combatants would just disappear in the walls, for instance. But overall it was still playable. That wasn't a problem, however, at least not for me. Last summer I replayed both The Witcher 3 and GTA 5. It may not be fair to compare these games to Cyberpunk, but the overall quality amazed me even after 7 years. While enjoyable at times, Cyberpunk itself just didn't do it for me. So for the last year I haven't played that much Cyberpunk. However, in that year CD Projekt Red has done its best to improve it through various patches and free DLCs. And from what I've read and saw the last couple of weeks, the game really is far better, able to deliver on its original promises, especially for console gamers. And for PC gamers, Cyberpunk should offer a better experience as well. So, on that note, let's see if that's all true and how the game holds up now. On a side note, if you like this type of content, hit the like and subscribe button. It would really help me and my channel out. On with the video. Story and setting. Get it right out of the gate. Yes, lovable Keanu Reeves is a big part of this game, playing a not so lovable character. More on that later. First, the cyberpunk genre. Cyberpunk itself is a genre that got its start in science fiction in the 60s and 70s, but really got big in the 1980s. It's a combination of science fiction, featuring AI, film noir, etc., and most of the time a dystopian setting. The genre has famous movies like Blade Runner, RoboCop, the Matrix series, and comics like Judge Dredd, which was also made into 2 cult movie hits. And of course there are various cyberpunk video games as well. The Syndicate series, the original combination of real-time combat and strategy, later turned into a first-person shooter in 2012. Blade Runner, Deus Ex, the fun Shadowrun series, which is a combination of fantasy and cyberpunk. And now Cyberpunk 2077, which is based on the Air Talzorian Games board game, the same name, from 1988. Cyberpunk is set in New City, an American megacity in the free state of North California, in the dystopian near future of 2077. You play V, a gun for hire looking for money and fame with your badass but quite huggable sidekick Jackie Wells. After a pretty long introduction in the world of New City, in a botched mission in a fancy hotel, you have to share your body with the soul of former rockstar and rebel/terrorist Johnny Silverhands, which has 2 big disadvantages. Slowly but surely your mind is taken over by Johnny, and he will die over time. And next to that, Johnny, played with panache by drumroll Keanu Reeves, is charismatic, smart, but also kind of a douche. So your main quest is finding a way on how not to die. And of course, this being a CD Projekt Red game, there are numerous side quests as well to fill your time, ranging from assassinations, rescue missions, industrial espionage, and everything in between. One thing I noticed about Cyberpunk, that while New City can be a tough, unforgiving place, many of the characters you encounter will have a heartfelt connection with you and each other, adding a nice touch of humanity to this RPG. Gameplay. The gameplay of Cyberpunk feels a lot like that of the PC version of GTA 5, meaning for the most part It's a first-person shooter and you get to drive around the city a lot, in both cars and on motorcycles. And while you can use different avenues in tackling problems, either through your technical skills or dialogue for instance, like in any good RPG, combat will be a big feature in this game, which is handled quite well. You can either use sneak, guns blazing, or melee weapons. And whether you prefer playing with keyboard and mouse or a controller, in-game combat is fun, engaging, and well done. Since this is a Cyberpunk game, hacking and IA is also important. You can hack into computers, etc. to get information and free money, but also into cameras, security equipment and even enemy combatants, which gives combat a nice, interesting extra dimension. Driving itself plays almost exactly like a Grand Theft Auto game. You can even listen to the radio, and there's a nifty fast travel system akin to the direction post of The Witcher 3. This should have been a full-fledged subway system in the original game, but this was scratched because of design issues. Since this is an RPG, you will gain XP for finishing quests and killing enemies, and when leveling up you can invest points in improving your character, making him or her stronger or smarter, whatever you prefer, or able to use new features and skills. So typical RPG fare, though the in-screen overview of your skills can be a bit difficult to navigate at first. All in all, now gameplay in Cyberpunk is pretty well done and has been improved somewhat since the updates. But there's one feature I have mixed feelings about, the brain dance, or BD as it's called in-game. This is a sort of puzzle detective system akin to that of The Witcher 3, where you search for information by delving into someone else's memories. Hence the name Brain Dance. The premise at first sounds brilliant, but it's not always implemented that well. It can be overly difficult at times. For instance, I got stuck for hours in one of the first puzzles, which is crucial to finish in order to further the story. I had to look online for the solution. Graphics. One of the main reasons why Cyberpunk 2077 had such a rocky start is because of the graphics. Especially on consoles, the game felt very empty. Apparently the high-end graphics took so much power that there wasn't any room for too many NPCs and traffic in the city, which made New City feel like a ghost town. This was less of an issue on PC, at least I didn't notice it. But there were many glitches. Like I said, the game would crash if there was too much happening on screen every now and then. There were some weird glitches. Enemies would disappear into walls, and there was one instance when I had to talk to a bartender in a club. I couldn't find the man anywhere until I saw him standing outside the club on the curb pouring drinks like he was just standing behind the bar. While funny, it's irritating as well. From what I saw, replaying the game for the last couple of days, almost all of these issues have been fixed. No more glitches and no more crashes. Knock on wood. So now you can focus on the actual quality of the graphics. They are of a high quality. Combat effects, hacking, character models, etc. all look great. One thing I noticed is drinking. Drinking in most current games still doesn't look too convincing. In Cyberpunk you do get the feeling that the different characters are actually enjoying a stiff cocktail. New City itself is a gritty, dirty, tough environment, but at times quite beautiful as well. And then many different NPCs you encounter are dressed colorful and outlandish, just like you would expect from a cyberpunk setting. Sound. From the moment it was released, the sound, soundtrack and voice acting were amongst the strong points of Cyberpunk. The sound effects are all good and do the trick. The soundtrack itself is amazing. You get melancholic synthwave songs in-game, style of music I quite like, and a rousing, heart-pumping soundtrack during combat, which practically begs to set the volume of your speakers to full-blown storm levels. You can also listen to the radio when driving, choosing amongst others between industrial, metal, hip-hop and techno. It's with the voice acting where the game sets a high bar. Main character Johnny Silverhands is played by Keanu Reeves, as I've said. who does his best to make him sound like a cynical douchebag. All the other main characters you can talk to are fully voice acted by veterans of the genre. No bad voice acting anywhere. Conclusion. So, to the great question, has Cyberpunk 2077 finally delivered on its original promises? Yes and no. In my own experience, yes, the game is very much improved. Almost all of the issues that were plaguing it have vanished on PC. And on the more current consoles, Cyberpunk is worth playing now. But from what I've read online, if you got a PS4, playing it can be a frustrating experience at times. Maybe less so than at the time of the original release date, but frustrating nonetheless. For me personally, however, the overall experience of Cyberpunk 2077 has much improved. Gameplay, graphics, story are all well done to excellent for the most part, and now I can honestly say I will replay this game more. I've upgraded my score for Cyberpunk from a dodgy 7 to a solid, well-earned 8 out of 10.